Welcome back to First Look, the series where we give you a sneak peek at an upcoming game. Today I'm going to be discussing Flotilla, which is a 3 to 5 player game from Wizkids that will be released at Essen Spiel 2019. Well, before I dive into the game and talk about all the different mechanisms at play, let me first give you a background on the theme. It takes place during the 1950s, in which nuclear testing has created a holocaust in which all of humanity has now moved to the oceans. And in order to rebuild humanity, each of you will represent a fleet commander trying to bring prosperity back to the human race. Now, in order to do so, you will be salvaging whatever you can from the depths of the ocean. You're going to be building new crew and gaining influence with the governing guilds within that flotilla, all with the idea of trying to have the most victory points by the end of the game. Now, there are three main aspects that I want to discuss. The first of which is the hand management portion of the game. Each of the players will be given 6 cards. Each of these 6 different cards are going to power their abilities with a single card that will allow them to scoop up all those cards and reuse them through the course of the game. What you will be doing in the game is going to be dependent upon which of the 2 different sides of your player board you're using. Now, let me first talk about the sink siders. At the start of the game, each of the players will be starting on the sink side of their player board. Each of their cards will allow them to take different types of actions depending upon which of the different guild cards that they use. Speaking of the 4 different types of guilds, first are the speakers. Now, the speakers have the unique ability to allow you to move around one of the 4 different rondels with your player marker. Each of these is going to provide victory points, money, new tiles, but most importantly, new cards that can be added to your own personal deck. Next are the Delvers, who will allow you to move your ships out from your flotilla in positions where your divers can then go into the ocean depths, gather resources that you can then take back to the market and sell for gold. Next are the Founders, who will allow you to pull tiles from the bag that you can then add to your own personal flotilla. These tiles have a range of different abilities, but typically they're going to allow very specific resources to be pulled up from the ocean depths, but they can also have locations on them that will help for other different abilities that you can use within the game. And finally are the Traders. Now, the Traders allow you to typically do production, which can come in a variety of different forms. Mostly the production will allow you to buy resources from the market or build very specific things. There are 2 things you can build. 1 are additional ships for your fleet, and 2 are outposts that are going to give you some victory point tiles depending upon which of the 2 player boards you have face up. Now, you will have a card, just like Concordia, that will allow you to pull all those cards back up to be able to reuse again. The real lure of this game is the fact that it can be played in 2 different distinct modes. As I already mentioned, each of the players will begin with the sink side face up. There are times within the game when you can make the decision to permanently flip your tile over to go to the sky side. Now, the sky side has the unique ability of playing the game very differently than the sink side players. Not to mention that, but all the tiles that you have placed on the board at that point will then be recollected and flipped over to their sky side. This is when you're actually going to be building a flotilla to earn victory points in a very different way. But one of the most unique aspects is that all the cards that you've acquired that were sink side cards now are flipped over to their sky side and have very unique abilities that are very different from their other side. This is the big draw within the game because players can win on either of the 2 sides by being just a sink sider or being a sky sider. However, how you play the game fundamentally will change, and both of these will feed off each other. As the sink siders go into the ocean to pull resources that they can then sell, the Skysiders use those same resources in order to build the flotillas, in order to earn victory points in different ways. So there's this yin and yang that takes place within the game depending upon which of the 2 sides that you play. The final thing that I want to touch on were the scoring tiles that are flanking the side of the game board. There are 4 for each of the different sides, Sink-siders and Sky-siders. And as you build outposts upon the game by spending money and building them to very particular locations, you're allowed to earn these tiles. These tiles are going to grant you X number of victory points depending upon criteria that you've met at that point, and again, depending upon which of these 2 sides that you are. And that's the real draw of this game. Your decision on whether or not to flip that to the sky side, depending upon where the economies sit at different times within the game and the cards that you've collected through the different guilds, is really going to build your economy in a very different way. So that is Flotilla. It is from Wizkids, a very unique game coming out to Spiel 2019. If you have any questions about the game, make them in the comments below. We'll of course be back at a future time for a review, but until then, see you guys.